Hello and welcome! Silrace here with Mechwarrior Online. It is time to talk about groups being allowed back into the solo queue. Because there was a post on the official forums, an official post talking about this. So I'm gonna ramble on about this for a while. Background footage is there for your distraction, some Mechwarrior Online gameplay, all of that good stuff. So let's dive right in there. Actually, before I do that, let me just remind you that this is my opinion. This is what I think on this whole subject. You are welcome to have a different opinion. You are welcome to disagree, agree, whatever. It doesn't matter. We are all having our own opinions on this after all. Anyways, let's talk about this. Originally, group and solo queue were split for a very good reason. Very good players absolutely have a massive impact in solo queue right now in a 12 versus 12 environment. If you add 4 very good players in a group on one side, you multiply that impact by over a 4 because of coordination. So the losers from this are, simply put, all the average players like myself, all the below average players, everybody who just wants to load in, have a beer with their friends on TeamSpeak, Mumble, Discord, where have you, and just shoot some robots, shoot some mechs. Everybody who wants to play with their friends in this sort of an environment are going to lose out on this. And in the end, I would argue that the highly competitive players at the very top end of things are also going to lose out on it as well, because they are the ones who will now be paired with a bunch of, you know, newbies or worse players, let's put it that way, on both sides. So they have to basically put in the work to carry their team and then just, you know, go ahead and stomp the other side. Now, stomps are something that happen in Mechwarrior Online already. You can dive into the reasons if you want. I am not gonna discuss them here. The truth of the matter, however, for solo queue right now is that stomps, one-sided stomps, are more common than very tight and close games. More games end up in stomps than you have for, you know, tight games, and you can. For that, part of the reason for that is you can see the influence very good players can have in matches. You can absolutely see the influence they have. Now time that over 4. And yes, you can also make the mathematical argument that if averages go as they should, that, you know, a 4-man awesome group is going to be on your side half the time and on the opposing team half the time. That's just, you know, mathematical averages. Might happen that way one day, might not happen that way the next day. And what starts happening if there is more and, you know, more of these groups put there. Now, if group queue, if solo queue is brought down to the group queue level where it is right now, because group queue was changed just a little while back from 12 versus 12 to 8 versus 8, which breathed some life to group queue. That was fantastic. If solo queue is brought down to that, because that was also part of the official post, that this is a possibility, then I would personally argue that 4-man groups are way too large. At the extreme, you put in 3-man groups. Personal preference, if you allow groups in the solo queue, they would be 2-man groups. If it stays 12 versus 12, I would then say that what you want is 3-man group. And at the extreme end, 4-man group. And yes, I can hear somebody talking about the whole, but lore says 4-man lances. Clans use 5-man, so can we now leave the lore, you know, out into the rubbish bin, because we are talking about actual gameplay. And lore, while lore is awesome and whatnot, it should not dictate fun gameplay elements. That's my opinion on the lore and gameplay differences. So anyways, personally I think that the losers from this are going to be all the average players if this happens. As the post sort of talks about, like just adding groups into solo queue, done. You can look at other games, for example World of Tanks, where groups are absolutely allowed into the solo queue. Groups are part of the solo queue. It's a 15 versus 15 game if you are not familiar with World of Tanks, where groups of up to 3 players are allowed on a team, but you can have multiple groups on each team. However, if you look at some of the top performers in World of Tanks, and you look at the older streams and whatnot where they played together, they absolutely stomp the opposing team. Absolutely. Massive impact into the game, even though it's 3 people out of 15. And also, that game, World of Tanks specifically, has the population to sustain that. Because the player base is so large that those 3 people who are really good might be dropping together all evening, and you might be playing all evening, and you only see them in like 1 game all evening because the player base is so large. Mechwarrior Online has a very small player base. If there is a 4-man group constantly dropping all evening, you bet you are going to see them a lot. Whether they are on your team or your opposing team. And then you can basically, by their presence, you can basically predict the end of the match, like which way the match is going to go, by which side that 4-man group is on. Of course you might get lucky and there is like 2 4-man groups in the queue who are about equal in skill, and then they get put on the both on one side, you know, and then they get to duke it out with each other after everybody else is dead. Because that's what's gonna happen. They are going to kill all the lower tier players, lower skill level players are just gonna be used as a cannon fodder, and then these guys get to actually have their own battle. That might be awesome for them. That might not be quite so fun for the average casual player who just wants to shoot some mechs. So no, personally I think 4-man are too much. It has to be 2, at most 3. And even then they are going to have massive impact. However, just to point out to all the group players who might be listening, possibly, if this 4-man gets implemented, just take this idea, take 4 Shadow Cats with 2 ERP PCs, run around the freaking battlefield and just kite the opposing team to death. I mean, you're welcome to steal that idea if you hadn't thought of it yet, because that's going to you're going to be able to get a lot of wins that way. It's not going to be fun for your opponents, but at least you're going to get a lot of wins and so on. Anyway, my honest fix for this, because now we are presented a problem which I don't think this particular thing is a solution to, which is the small player base and the fact that we all wanna play with our friends, because we all wanna play with our friends. The casuals wanna play with their friends, the competition guys wanna play with their friends, and it's not working out right now very well. My solution to this is to allow solo players to opt in to group play instead. Give us a checkbox where you can, okay, I will happily fill out a group spot if there is, like, you know, incompatible group sizes in the queue. Like, let's say one side has an 8-man group and the other side has a 6-man group, and there is no 2-man group to fill that final spot. So fill it with 2 solos. I will be happy to do that. However, adding groups into solo queue, I think that is only going to result in, you know, loss for everybody in the grand scheme of things. Because the worst players are going to get stomped even harder than they are being stomped right now, which is going to stop them from, you know, enjoying the game as much. Or then they are, then the other side of that is, even if they are on the winning team, they might not get to do much because the very good players are going to do all the damn work. And the very high skilled players are just absolutely going to tear through all of these pretty, well, average players. Alright, I think I am done rambling about this. My solution to end this is to not implement this particular thing, and if you do implement it, it's max 2 player groups, possibly 3. And then, you know, allow solos into the group queue instead, because I would be willing to do that instead of, you know, what this is going to result in. Anyway, thank you very much for watching and for listening. And hopefully you enjoyed the background footage if you decided you didn't want to listen to my rambling and you just muted me. I will see you folks next time with more Mechwarrior Online and other